So a couple of nights ago, I had a level 5 psychedelic experience, and it's been probably like 3 years since I've had an experience of that level of intensity. The only reason why I've been trying to achieve these experiences, or at least step myself up to it, is because I want to make sure that I'm in the right state to be able to, I guess, endure the DMT experiments that I want to do, because I've been trying to slowly tease my ideas about what I want to do with DMT, and it has to do with drawing information out of it through literally drawing, just drawing it on pen and paper. Um, I'm hoping that this kind of expedition can allow me to get enough visual information to get more to give us more information about like the form constants that are being created by the brain, and what does it mean about consciousness. There's a lot of questions that we want answered, and I think that this may give us some insights into that. Without further ado, I'll get into the trip report. I ended up writing the trip report down, so I'll just read it to you guys because I think that'll be faster than me trying to present it in any other way. I took 30 milligrams at precisely 1:20 a.m. I was watching Stranger Things, but after 20 minutes or so, it was getting a bit too intense, so I popped on Across the Spider-Verse since it was neutral in terms of vibe. It's really there just to keep me company in a way. I'm not really watching it, obviously, at this dose. It was coming on faster and stronger than anticipated, and I was already starting to feel like I overstepped the dose too quickly, and entered into something I wasn't sure I was ready for. My room started to look like not my room anymore, at least in my peripheral vision. Anything that I wasn't directly focusing on was shifting and moving and becoming very large entities, like limbs of entities would be the size of my desk. I remember seeing a lot of large floating limbs in the dark areas of my room, kind of reminiscent of GLaDOS from Half-Life's Portal.
The dumbest thing that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did.
The geometric visuals I was experiencing were incredibly intricate in both form and color. Lots of depth to it in the closed and open eye. When I went to my bathroom, my floors and walls looked a tiny bit like the psychedelic mosque designs, but its patterning was far more complicated, and its use of color was far more thoughtful and elegant than an internet image I can grab to show you, though this is as close as I can get. I believe at this point I began to panic a bit because I'm realizing this is getting far more intense than anything I believed could happen at 30 milligrams. I went back in my bed and I was closing my eyes, and I was now in a visual space very similar to places I've been in smoked DMT trips. The geometry was moving towards me in a wavy mist-like representation, just in movement though. It was a bit hard to describe because the waves looked like folded bands of connected geometry. It took on the typical smoked DMT representation. In the folds of these waves moving towards me, I would see entities form in the gaps of the folds, and then collapse back into them. The waves of the patterns started to have letters inside the tiles of the geometry, spelling things, and I tried to read it, but I couldn't pay attention enough. The letters forming in the geometry usually only happen to me with smoked DMT. Other characteristics of the geometry I should mention. A lot of the trip I was seeing matrixy style of geometry just covering my field of view. The style is like a big boy version of the crop circles that are constantly changing and morphing. I try to remember to make observations on the geometry to see if I can recognize familiar form constants, and maybe ones we haven't documented yet. And I believe there are a ton. I noticed there's a metallic thunder aspect of the geometry. I often see the geometry flowing in what appears to be nodes, or vertices, or places where energy collects. Maybe pockets? And there is a very high energy electricity that I perceive to be shooting out of these things like lightning. Note, when I was sober enough, I tried to draw some of the geometry / patterning in nodes, but unfortunately I was too late, and it was gone before I could try. But while tripping, I tried to recreate the feel of what I'm talking about, even though it's not an accurate depiction of these elements I'm talking about anymore. There is a pareidolia effect with the matrixy pattern grid where you can see facial features in it, though we know this already. Anyways, back into the experience. I felt regret that I took this high of a dose and went into a self-preservation mindset because my fight or flight was telling me I was in imminent danger. I remember thinking there was no turning back now, and calling an ambulance won't save my life, so I make peace with the fact that I fucked up, and now I have to surrender to this unknown thing. And I remember kind of asking it to show me mercy. I immediately felt like Judgment Day, and I was thinking maybe if I don't have huge skeletons in my closet, this thing will let me go, and this will not be the end. At this point, I can't feel myself breathing anymore, and I can feel a slight static electricity on my fingertips. However, not to the degree that this happens with oral DMT / pharmawaska. With that, it's literally like dragging your slippers on a carpet to touch and shock someone. My sense of my body is also scattered, and I have the sensation of my limbs being in all corners of my room. I feel no connection to my body, and my body feels like the whole room / space I was inhabiting. Then my harm OCD symptoms go into times 10,000, and I feel like I don't know the difference between thoughts and actions, and I get worried that if I think I'm going to harm myself, I won't be able to stop it from happening, and it's just a thought away from becoming reality. Now I'm aware that I'm being martyred, and I feel as if someone planted a bomb inside of me and it's about to detonate. And I feel like I'm being sucked into a black hole of an event where I end up not knowing the difference between life and death, and end up stabbing myself in the chest or something. Then I have to try to let go of the fact that the plane is crashing, and I remember to try to remember that there's still a physical body, and I was trying to maintain a difference between life and death. I actually didn't care that I was screwed at that point. All I was thinking was, I don't care what happens to me as long as my cat is safe. Weird, but it helped. I don't exactly remember what happened after that, but I eventually started to regain a sense of self, and I then started to come down to what feels like a 20 milligram peak dose, which is far more manageable than what just happened, and that's about it. I'm excited that I got this done because it's been a while and it gets harder to take the dive to pop your cherry again. Now that I got that done, I can start smoking DMT and do my explorations and feel more confident about taking it deeper. A last note on this trip, I'm not entirely sure why the experience was so powerful. I've taken north of 20 milligrams for ACO DMT on top of large MAY doses Syrian rue and rarely achieved this level of intensity. I wonder why this was so powerful. Yeah, so that's about it. Since I was able to get that done, now I'm feeling pretty confident that I can start smoking DMT to really kind of log the experience. And it's just going to be drawing the form constants and then whatever I see and just making a lot of observations. It's I've been inspired by the DMTX stuff that's going on right now, and like I said, I'm going to make further content about this topic and explaining it and kind of maybe getting ideas from you guys and seeing what type of experiments that I could run.